We're on the inside of our album, but really quick, grab a leaf. We want to stick something here. I was looking at that, and that's where we want to put it. Since I'm making this as I go, we may have to revisit a couple pages just to make it better. We're going to go ahead and cut our base page, our decorative paper. So let's measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. By the way, usually when I show you what page to grab from your paper stack, I usually flip it over to show you what's on the back, just in case the lighting isn't real good when I'm filming. So, okay, this is what you have. Go ahead and put this in your reserves. I'm going to measure over 7 1/4 inch and cut. So let's do that. This goes in our reserves. Put that over there. Now I want to show you something really quick. And if we were to grab our book, page 1 is right here. Page 2 is here. Page 3, 4, it's kind of like reading a book. And that's how I count my pages. Now we are working on page 1, which is inside here, but we will not, when we're done creating it, we're actually going to set it off to the side. We'll go create page 2, and then when we're ready to mount, we'll first mount page 2, and we will come back and mount page 1. And the reason why is because this is an 8 by 8. Our inner cardstock is a 7 1/2 and 7 1/2. It is easier, I've found, that if we mount page 2 first, then on this side, it's easier to line up, to center and line up page 1, because this is slightly larger by this. So that's just a heads up to let you know if I don't mount it when we're done, we will be mounting it. Okay. This is our base sheet. Let's go ahead and stick this off to the side, and let's get a piece of black cardstock. Cut a piece of cardstock that is 6 1/2 inches by 7 5/8 of an inch. All your scrap pieces stick in a reserve pile just for cardstock, colored cardstock. We will get into that and use what we can throughout the tutorial to save on cutting into new paper. Okay, we are 6 1/2 inches wide, 7 5/8 long. Okay, I'm using the Regal Borders and Pockets die trim plate, and this is the one I'm going to be using. Now the tape here that you see on here is tape to keep this from sliding around on my die cutting machine. We're not going to just run this through. We are going to get our washi tape out. But go ahead and place your plate, and when you place these throughout the tutorial, you're going to want to make sure that you are centered from side to side, and especially from this point to here, this point to here, so that when you do die cut it, it's going to be even for you. For right now, all we are going to do is place this down so that we can measure how far up we need to place our washi tape. I'm going to use this washi tape, and I think you can kind of see it there. So looking at this and how far my sides are going to go up, all I'm going to do is just place a piece right here where I think it's supposed to be. And now I'm just going to pull this, whoops, I think it was right here, straight across, and try to do it as even and smooth as possible. And I'm just going to do rows. Now, because this is going to be a flip, I'm going to do the other side as well. Okay, let's see, where was I on that side? Right about here. If you get a little up more, it isn't going to hurt anything really, because we are going to be placing our decorative paper up through here. Okay, making sure you are completely down. I'm not going to worry about this little corner that isn't, because our die, when I place it here, isn't going to get over there anyway. Okay, so if you're using the Martha Stewart deep edge punch, you'll want to do the same thing. So now all I have to do is make sure that I am even from side to side and run that through my die cutter. So let's do that. Okay, now some of you don't have the 6.5, you're working with a 6-inch platform. You can just die cut this piece on a shorter piece, and then what you'll do is you will just cut down your cardstock and put it down on there. That is one way. Now here is mine, and we are just going to cut straight in from the sides. And you can put this on your paper cutter and get a straight line. Most of the time I do, but I'm going to just try to get as straight as I can here. So that is what you should have. And it's very pretty. Let's get our scoreboard. Okay, let's lay our piece across our scoring board. Score at the 1/2 inch mark and score at 5/8. And we can go ahead and fold on our score lines. In your paper pack, you will find this piece. On the back, it looks like this. Measure over 6 3/8 of an inch and cut. Put this piece in your reserves for now. Now what we're going to do is, since some of you may have used the Martha Stewart deep edge punch, or we may be a hair off from our dies that we're using, what we're going to do is measure to fit. So with this, you have 2 score lines. Fold both of those, fold it all the way back, everything back behind. Okay, and I'm going to lay mine down just like this so you can see what I'm doing. This should fit from side to side, just leaving a little bit of black showing on this side and this side. Okay, so now we know we fit like that. Move your paper up until you can just see a little bit of black up here. And then what you're going to do is just bring it down a little so you can see what's happening over here. Let's grab a pencil. And I like that little bit of trim that got left of the washi tape. So I'm going to use my pencil and make a mark right there. So now I know where I need to cut to fit this panel. So let's trim. Put your other piece in your reserves. Before we do any gluing, I mentioned this before, is we are going to check to make sure we fit before we add adhesives and glues and all that. So me placing this down, leaving a little black here, I'll have black along the sides, and placing it down here, this is going to be a nice fit. I'm ready to apply glue to the back of this, and I am using my glue here, my bottle. So I'm just going to apply my glue. And I'm making sure my flaps are tucked all the way to the back. And I'm going to mount this. Alright, let's go ahead and flip that up. Our flaps are now down here. That piece that we just put in our reserves looks like this. Let's go ahead and grab that. Now place it on here. Let's take a look at where we're at. If you were to place it like this, you will have a nice fit like we did before, where you see a little black here and here. Bring it all the way down, and sometimes you have to just move it over. And I'm bringing mine all the way to the top now so I can see where those 2 score lines are. I'm going to mark this with a pencil. There's 2 score lines, one here and then one on the inner. I'm going to mark this about a 1/16 of an inch up from that inner score line. Now I know where I need to cut. Let's go ahead and cut our piece. Apply glue and press it down, making sure you're not on that score line. Now here's a little trick. Because sometimes when we are die cutting with our washi tape in the back side, we're a little different from the other side. You can just go ahead and lay a piece of washi tape across the top for like a trim, like so. And I'm gonna, or if you've got a little uneven with your thing, you can just apply your washi tape right across, and now you can trim it. So that's what it looks like there. That's what it looks like there. And I think that looks pretty good. Okay. So this is eventually, and we'll put this all together at once, but eventually this is going to hook just like that. But first, we need to get our pocket ready. I'm going to use my 1/2 inch Martha Stewart punch. In your reserves, you should have this piece. It is 8.5 inches wide, and it's 4.5 inches tall here. If you don't have one, go ahead and cut one. 8.5 inches wide by 4.5 inches, and we are going to use the washi tape across here. The washi tape that I'm going to use is this polka dotted one, and it is actually wide enough, so all I need is one strip, and I'm going to lay it across. So let's start punching, and we're going to punch all the way across the long side of this. This is what you should have. Isn't that pretty? Okay, let's grab our score tape, set that off to the side. One thing about these albums is using good score tape or double-sided tape. The brand of mine is score tape. So we're just going to lay a piece right across the bottom, and we're going to make sure that we press it down really good. Remove the backing, and we are going to center this. You will notice that we will have overhang on each side. That's exactly what we want when I'm doing these pockets. So I'm just going to bring this all the way down to the bottom, making sure I've got flaps on both sides. And now I can take my fingers and smooth it out, making sure that that tape grabs. Now one thing you can do here is kind of go like this to give you room, or you can stick like a piece of, well, just stick your tape right there just in the opening to help you when we flip this over to give you more room. And then all we have to do at this point is putting our fingers down, flip this over, and this is where I like to use hot glue because it's quick for me. And we're going to tack that down. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. And you can use any glue you want. Score tape, you probably don't want to use score tape because score tape's more expensive of an adhesive. Okay, so this is what you should have. In your paper pack, you will find this sheet. On the back is the butterflies. Measure over 7¼ inches and cut. This goes in your reserves, and we're going to use the purpley side. So let's measure up just in case you're not using the same 1/2 inch punch as me. I'm just going to bring that right up underneath my trim there, and I'm going to grab my pencil, And I'm going to need to move this. This is one way. I used to call out exact measurements, but because some people have die cutters, some people don't, some people will be using the same punches, some won't. I want to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to get a cut piece accurately. So I'm just going to lay this down right by my trim there. And I'm going to use my pencil, and I'm going to measure up what I need to fit. So now I'm going to cut that. So before you add adhesive, your glue, put your piece up and just double check that you made the right cut. And mine does. Mine will fit perfectly, and yours should too. So we're just going to apply our glue. And make sure that we press down really good. Let's go ahead and attach our flip here. And all you're going to do is you have two scores. You have one that will, if we were to pinch it, would hide everything. We want the other one. And then this way, all you have to do is hook it centered and pinch it at the top. Hold it. If it slides, you'll have to start all over there to get it lined up. But once you have it in place, then it's easier just to run a strip of glue, and then you can push it back up. And then you should have a nice fold now. Now what we're going to do is add some things to dress up our page. In the timeless rectangles, we've already done this before by cutting a rectangular piece of white cardstock, laying our washi tape around the edges, and then placing our plate down and running it through the die cutter. And this is what you are left with. So take a moment to get yours ready, and then we will do this together. One thing I wanted to remind you is for things like this is the leftover from the cutting. If I was to trim off the side here, this would be like the perfect frame for a photograph to fit over it and then mount it onto a piece of cardstock. So it's not a wasted piece if you'd like to utilize your scraps like that when your project is completely done. I'm saving mine. Now those of you that are using the 1/2 inch Martha Stewart combo pack, you can create the same thing that we're going to do on this page. You'll want to cut a piece of white cardstock that is 3 1/4 inches by 5 inches, and that is going to line you up. You'll be slightly larger than this, but it will still look good. And these are my little sample, making sure I can fit in the pockets. But as you can see, it'll look very nice. So that is what you can do instead of die cutting. Grab a piece of your 1/2 inch white lace, and we are going to cut this to fit. And let's go ahead and glue that down right like that. Grab one of your flat back pearls, and I'm going to add some glue. I'm going to place that in the center there. Okay, for this one, it is going to be left so you can slide stuff back behind. So the only place, if you were to place yours down like so, the only place that is going to have glue on it is right down under here and a little bit up on the sides. If you would like to grab a piece of scrap cardstock, so just in case your glue doesn't squirt all over, slide it back underneath there. Okay, so this is where we're at. Let's prepare a couple leaves, and we are going to glue it down right there. Be careful not to glue down the tips here, because then you won't be able to slide anything back behind. So the majority of it's right there. And you can have a little bit of an overhang off the page. It won't hurt nothing. And we're going to place a flower, and I made this. And I did not, for the center, I did not do like a bud. I kind of spread it out, then put my prill so it's not as bulky. And we're just going to glue this right on down. So let's do that. And we only have one more thing left to do, and it's going to be a small side pocket. Let's get out our Heartfelt Creations Ornate Borders and Pockets die. In your reserve cardstock, you will find a piece like this. This is 8.5 inches wide, and I believe this is about 3.5 inches tall, if you're looking at it like this. The Ornate Borders and Pockets, and you can use whatever one that you would like. I'm using my favorite one, and it's 2 pieces. Whoops. And it looks like this. I am going to, when I place this, I'm not going to center it. I am going to place it down like this, but right now all I'm going to do is measure for the washi tape. And I am going to use this one. So I'm going to go probably right here. Give myself a little room for error. Let's put that here to measure. There we go. I'm just going to lay my tape. Okay, pressing it all down. I'm just going to lay this down. Matter of fact, I'm going to cut off some of this excess that I don't need. Okay, laying it down, I'm going to make sure it is, the side of this would be going to the side of this, and that I am straight, equal distance. Now I'm just going to run that through the die cutter. Now I am going to place this on the paper cutter to cut straight up to the edge here. And over here, since I still have a little bit and I want these lines straight, I'm going to do the same thing. So all I will have is a piece that looks like this and is straight on each side. In your reserves, you should have a scrap piece that is small. On the back, it's nothing. I'm going to bring mine all the way up like this, and I'm going to mark where I need to trim. Once you know where you need to trim there, just move this over just a hair so you can see the black down here. Make a mark with your pencil. Now we trim here, and this should fit. Remember to keep all your scrap pieces. We can go ahead and glue this down now. There we go. Now this is just going to place right here and here. And we're going to use our glue for this pocket. That would even look cute like that, but we're going to do it this way. I'm just going to put some glue here on the sides, a real thin line. And bring this up to the bottom. You will come up on your trim piece. If you're worried about glue seeping back to the back, stick something in there. Okay. Grab your 1/2 inch and let's cut a piece. And now let's glue that down. Let's get out our large Monarch Butterfly Punch by Martha Stewart. We are going to use white cardstock, or you can use black. And I used a darker gold with the pattern on that, and we're going to punch that, and we're going to add a little glue to the back, and it goes right here. Once this is all dried, we're going to flip this over and we're going to put score tape. We'll start off with score tape around the outside like a picture frame. We're going to put one down the middle and two short ones on either side. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. This should hold our page perfectly fine in our book. We won't mount this one yet. We're going to set this off to the side and we're going to move on to page 2. Page 2, in your paper pack, you will find this sheet. On the back, it looks like this. We're going to measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. This piece goes in our reserves. Now let's measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. Your small piece goes in your reserves. This is our base sheet. Let's work on our side pocket. Grab a piece of cardstock, 8 1/2 inches wide, 11 inches tall. We're going to measure over 2 1/2 inches and cut. This piece goes in our reserves. I'm going to be using this washi tape. Let's grab our Regal borders and pockets. I'm going to use the same die that I used on page 1. And I am going to center this, and I'm going to measure what I'm going to need. So for me, I'm going to just start right here. And that should be plenty good. Trying to keep this straight. And to see how much I actually need here, and I'm not going to need a whole bunch over here or over here. So make sure I get this right. Just going to place this right across here. Okay. Now all I'm going to do is make sure that I am even from here to here, here to here, and from here and up in here. And I am going to run this through my die cutter. This is what you should have. Now I am going to stick this on my paper cutter so I can get a straight cut from here to here and here to here. Now I am going to keep this scrap because I still have washi tape here that I can use my little punch for if I would like. So like I said, we're going to keep everything until the project is over. This is going to mount on the side. So let's get our score tape. I'm going to turn this for a moment, and I'm just going to make sure that I'm even here. As even as I can get. Okay. Now we're just going to wrap our flaps around the back, and you will have a pocket. And I'm going to use this as an example that you can get things in and out of there. Let's get our piece that goes over here. In your reserves, you should have this print. On the back, it looks like this. All we're going to do is trim to fit. So I'm going to grab my pencil here. I'm going to move it down so I can see exactly where I'm at. And I'm going to trim this all the way down. Then I'll cut it by 7 1/4. So now all I have to do is glue that down. With that little trimming from this, grab your small Martha Stewart butterfly, and we are going to punch to get one out. Actually, let's grab 2. Grab your foiled Fancy's butterflies, and I'm going to grab one of these from off to the side here. I'm going to slightly bend this a little. I'm going to add some glue. Slightly bend this one. And I'm going to allow that to dry. Stick one here. On your foiled Fancies, let's go ahead and grab a slightly bigger butterfly. And we're going to do the same thing by mounting this butterfly there. And I'll wipe off any excess glue that seeps out. And we're going to apply glue to that. And we're going to stick it right down here. We're going to let the glue dry a bit before we put our centers in. Grab some bling, and I'm going to snip off 2 bling for this one, and 1 bling piece of bling for this other one. We're going to let that dry, and once it's dry, we're going to flip this over. We're going to do score tape like we did the previous page. Around the edges like a picture frame, 1 down the middle, 2 short ones on either side, and we're going to mount this. Whoops, forgot my flat back pearl that I wanted to use on here. This one goes right here. There we go. So let's open up our book. This one is going to place right here. Before we do anything, because these are all black and it is hard to see where the edges are, because at least for me it is, what you can do is grab one of your pieces out of reserves or a full sheet, whatever you'd like, and I just like to stick it right behind that first page so I can see what I'm doing. Before I pull out the score tape and mount this, I'm going to show you. When you put this down, you are going to center it on the page. You will notice that you will have a black border around, and that I think looks nice. So this is how it's going to look. Make sure you are not on your score mark here and that you're far enough over to where you've got this centered here. So now I'm going to remove the score tape and I'll place mine, and then you can place yours. I've got my score tape off, and I hope my head does not get in the video, but you're going to want to do this, and sometimes it takes practice to do it, and even for me sometimes it's hard to keep this straight. So we just do the best we can. And you just want to make sure you smooth it down. Make sure all that score tape gets down. Oops, mine still is not quite dry up there. My butterfly. Okay, so now you have this page in. I'm going to leave this here so that it's easy for me to see. Let's grab page 1, and get that mounted. The reason why we do page 2 first, now it's easy to see where the top of this page is going to lay, so you can line that up over here. It's like a guide. I'm going to remove my score tape. Got my score tape off, and now I'm just going to try the best I can, making sure I am far enough away from our hinging there, and try to line it up the best I can. And I think this is good enough right here. Flip that up. And there we have it. Let's move on to page 3. We're on page 3, and in your paper pack you will find this print. If you fill it, it's textured. On the back there isn't anything. Measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. This piece is going to go in our reserves. Measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. This is our base page. In your reserves you will have this large piece of cardstock, and we are going to measure over 4 inches and cut. This is going to have some larger flaps going around the back. We're just going to use this piece rather than going cut a new piece. This is going to be our pocket. I'm going to be using my Martha Stewart deep edge punch, and this is actually about 1 1/4 inches. So I'm just going to lay my ruler down there to help me. Actually, right over here would be good. And I'm going to place my washi tape across. So 1 1/4. I'm going to go about 1 1/2 inches here with this, trying to stay even. And all I'm going to do is run this across the top. I've got mine down, so now all I'm going to do is punch right across. Excuse me. This is what you should have. So now I'm going to grab my score tape, and I'm going to lay it across the bottom here. Flip this over, and let's go ahead and tack down our flaps around the back. In your paper pack you will find this. It's like one of the last pages. It's yellow. On the back it's a pink polka dot. And all we're going to do is just lay this right on down, and we are going to line it up and measure to fit. And use our pencil. And now let's trim that. Go ahead and stick this into our reserves for now. And now all we have to do is cut this by 7 1/4 inches. Apply glue and mount your piece. Grab your 3/4 inch lace, and we're going to cut a piece to fit. And then we're going to glue that right on down. Cut a piece of bling that will fit and glue that down. I'm using my binder clips to hold that down while the glue dries. Let's work on our fold out. Grab a piece of cardstock and measure over 7 inches and cut. Put this in our reserves. We'll get at that in a moment. Now we're going to measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. Okay, This will place at 7¼ inches long, so it's the same height as our base sheet. Let's get our scoreboard out. We are 7 inches across. At 1/2 inch, we are going to score, and we're going to score it at the 3/4 inch to give us a little room there. And let's fold on our scores. Okay, tuck all your flaps in to the back. In your paper pack, you will find this sheet. I believe it's the first page in the book, and it's textured. Measure over 6 1/16 of an inch and cut. Put this side in reserves. Now we're going to measure over 7 1/8 of an inch and cut a smaller piece. Put in your reserves. Again, make sure your flaps are all folded to the back. Let's place this down and make sure that this is going to fit, leaving us a black border around. And I've got a perfect fit. We're not going to glue this down yet. We want to do a pocket. In your reserves, grab that piece of cardstock we just put in there. This should be 8½ inches wide by about 4 inches. Yes, we're going to use that. I'm going to use the Ornate Borders and Pockets die, and the one I am going to get is this one. So you'll want that, plus find the piece that fits over it so it will cut. And let's get our washi tape out. Alrighty, place your bracket down. We don't need a whole lot. We don't need to waste washi tape over here. I'm going to use a gold foil, and I'm just going to start over here at the bottom. Get me straight. Put this down to see what I'm doing. And it looks like right over. Got all my washi tape down. Now all I need to do is center this and run it through the die cutter. This is what I have, and I am going to stick this on my cutter, my paper cutter. Oh, I didn't quite release it up here. There we go. And I'm going to go from the corner here straight down, from here straight up to release this. Now I'm ready to use my score tape and mount this pocket. Oh my gosh, my cat is just going nuts. Okay, make sure that this is centered. And now let's just wrap our flaps around the back and tack that down. Let's apply glue to the back of this, making sure again our flaps are tucked all the way to the back. We're going to center this and press it all down. In your reserves, you will have this piece. Flip it over, and it's this print. We're just going to place this and measure to fit. I'm going to put that right on down there. I'm going to make a mark right here so I know where to cut. And then I'm going to move this over slightly, and I'm going to make a mark this way so I know which way to trim. So let's go ahead and cut, and then we'll mount it. Apply glue to the back and glue that down. Let's go ahead and flip it over to work on the inside. In your reserves, you will have this cut. We're going to measure over 7 1/8 and trim that little bit off. We're going to make this larger. If you noticed, if you were to place this down, we are short over here. So what I like to do is grab, as a matter of fact, I think this one would work better. I'm going to grab a piece of cardstock and I'm going to lay a piece, flip this over. I'm going to lay this right on the side. And I'm going to piggyback these two to make a full sheet because we're going to have a side pocket and we don't need to go and cut a fresh piece. So I'm just going to bring this all the way up to the top here, and this is where I want to try to be as even as I can. Go ahead and trim this to be even with this. Now looking at yours like this, we're going to measure this way 6 1/16 of an inch, and we're going to cut it. Okay, now the flap should be off to the right for us. Place this down, making sure you are about 1/16 of an inch in from that inner score line. And if you were to place this, you would be able to still have black border over here and some over here. So that's what we want. Grab a piece of cardstock from your reserves, and I'm going to use this piece, and this is 3.5 inches wide, and you want one that is at least long enough, tall enough that you'll have some flaps, and I do. So this piece is good. If you need to cut a piece, just cut one by 3.5 inches by 8.5 inches and you will be just fine. I'm going to be using my Martha Stewart deep edge punch for this. It's the same one that I used up here. So I am going to lay my washi tape here. And now we're going to punch across. Okay, the black cardstock showing should be on your left hand side. Let's mount this side pocket. Lay our score tape. Make sure it's down. Now mount our side pocket and tack down our flaps. In your reserves, let's grab that yellow print. It's the one with the pink polka dots. And all I'm going to do is measure to fit. Trim this. So let's go ahead and do that. Once you've got yours trimmed, now let's just glue that right on down. It's time to glue this down. Make sure your flaps are off to the right. Apply glue to the back. And place your piece, making sure you are not on your inner score. Let's attach our fold out. And what I'm going to do is on the fold out or the score line, that is the outside one, I'm going to pinch it all like this. It's easier for me at least. And I'm going to make sure I'm even top to bottom. And once I have that there, I'm going to hold it with one hand here tight. And I'm going to hold it back behind like so. And I'm going to keep holding and press down with my fingers so it does not slide. If it slides, you're going to have to start over again with lining it up. And that's all I'm going to do. And once that's tacked down, you can move it back and you should have one that fits. Okay, let's get a couple leaves. We're going to glue them down just like that, and we're going to get a flower and glue it down. Let's work on here. Grab a leaf, glue it down, and I have a single layer flower with a flat back pearl in the center, and I'm going to glue that down right like this. And this is just, it has elderberry around the edges and a little bit of the Lulu lavender and very light right after the edges with the sweet plum. With that one strip, go ahead and punch out with your small Martha Stewart punch a couple of those. Let's get our foiled fancies out. And I'm going to grab this one down here. And I think I'll grab this one. This is a different shape. Guess I'll find out how that looks. Okay, I'm going to add some glue to this, and remember this will take some time to dry. Okay, as soon as these dry, I'm going to put 2 of my bling in the middle for decoration, and I'm going to do 1 on this one. I'm going to glue this one right up here. I'm going to glue right here. Once this all dries, we are going to flip this over to the back, put our score tape like we normally do, 1 down the middle and 2 short ones on either side, and we're going to mount this in our book. We're going to mount page 3 together one more time, and then throughout the tutorial you won't need me. I've got the score tape off the back. This is something I just did. This is what I was talking about. If you make a mat on a black mat, and I haven't glued this down, but I cut the trimmings off that die cut and then place this on over a picture or something. Okay, it is off, and I am really going to concentrate on not getting too close to this, and I'm going to try without getting my head in the video, and then you'll want to open up and press down really good. And that's all there is to it. Let's move on to page 4. We're on page 4. In your paper pack, grab this sheet. It's the same one that we used for page 3. We're going to measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. This side goes in our reserves. Measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. We now have our base page. Grab a piece of cardstock, measure over 4 inches and cut. The other piece is going to go in our reserves. We are going to make the same pocket as we did before, and I'm going to lay my washi tape. Oops, I'm off. And I'm going to use the same deep edge Martha Stewart punch as I used on the other. And now we're just going to punch across. Let's grab our score tape and mount this pocket. And now all we have to do is wrap our flaps and tack it down. In your reserves, grab that yellow print with the pink flowers, and there's pink polka dots on the back side, and I'm just going to bring this up and measure this to fit. And now I'm going to cut across this way and then that way. Let's apply glue to the back of this and mount this. Cut a piece of 3/4 inch white trim and glue that down, and then we're going to cut a piece of bling to fit across and glue that down. In your reserves, remember these corner pieces that were scraps that we had cut in the very beginning? We're going to use our monarch butterfly, and we are going to punch out a larger one. Let's grab our foiled fancies. And I want a bigger size one here, so let's see what would look good. And this one right here is the one I want. Grab my Xeron clippers. I bent this slightly. Now I'm just going to add some glue right down the middle there. Grab my cutout and place it like so. Prepare a leaf, and I've got my glossy accents on this, and I'm doing a single layer flower. I've got elderberry around the edges, and I use sweet plum on that, and of course I got my Winka Stella on that as well. I'm going to use my glue here, and I'm going to place that right here. And of course it's going to need a moment to dry. My leaf is going to layer right on there. And I'm going to use a little hot glue for this, because it's on the paper. And now I'm going to place my flower. Oops, real simple. Just like that. On white cardstock, what I did was I placed some white with gold foiled dots. I laid this down. You don't need much. And then I did a smaller flower, and I put the pearls in there. And I'm just going to place this one right there. If you are die cutting your flowers, I grabbed one off the hibiscus trimming, one of the larger ones, and I used elderberry on it, and then I used the silver stickles or ice, and we do have to let this dry before we can mount this in our book, but all we're going to do, add some glue and slide that right on back in there. Press it down using this. When your page has completely dried, we're going to flip it over, add score tape to the back like we've been doing, and we're going to mount this in our book. Page 5. So now that you see how we do our base pages and so forth up to this point, we're going to speed up the process a little. Grab both of the sheets from your paper pack. They're identical. It has the like grayish blue little flowers. There's nothing on the back. So if you grab 2 of them, double them up, measure over 7 1/4 inches, and cut. Then we can cut both 5 and 6 together. So we've got 2 of these and 2 of these. Put these in our reserve. Double these back up. Measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. For now, put these in our reserves. Okay, set one off to the side for page 6. And I'm going to stick mine over here to make sure I don't cut into that by accident. Here's our base sheet for 5. Cut a piece of black cardstock that is 4 5/8 by 6 3/8. And for those of you that are not using the Timeless Rectangles die plate, you'll want to use your combo pack, the 1/2-inch combo pack. And I suggest first, and make sure your flaps are all the way out, punching all the corners first and then lining up with the straight border punch. And you should be able to make this. For the timeless rectangles, you'll use the biggest bracket and it will just fit. But before you start punching, we are going to place our washi tape. And I am going to use a gold foil. This one has polka dots. You can use the solids if you would prefer. And we're just going to lay that around the edges there. I think I'll start across the bottom. And you'll do what we did before by using the washi tape around there. And you'll do that with this one too if you're border punching with the Martha Stewart's. So this is what you should have if you are using the Timeless Rectangles die. And of course, if you are doing the Martha Stewart half-inch border combo pack, you'll have this with the gold around there. Now, in order to accommodate both, because one is going to be narrow than the other if you're using that, we're going to accommodate both. So, cut a piece of black cardstock that is 6 inches wide by 6 3/4 inches tall. Once you've done that, grab your scoreboard, and we are 6 inches across. At the 1/2 inch mark, you're going to score, and at the 3/4 inch mark, you're going to score. So now let's fold on our score lines. Our flaps are off to the left, and we're going to fold the flap back behind. So all we have is this. We need to find our decorative paper for this first, and then we will be placing this over and then doing some layering. In your reserves, you will find this print. On the front, it looks like this. On the back, it is the butterflies. So we're going to turn it. So looking at it, you should have approximately 8 1/4 inches across this way. Let's do our cuts like this. We are going to measure over 5 1/8 of an inch and cut. Put this in our reserve. Measure over 6 5/8 of an inch and cut. Let's make sure that we fit with our black frame around, and that is a good fit. Let's go ahead and apply glue and mount that. And remember, your flaps are off to the left and tucked back behind. In your reserves, find the blue flower print. It's blank on the back. It's the same as our base sheet. Grab your die cut, and we are going to measure to fit. Going this way, it seems to fit mine just fine. If you are using this one, you're going to have to turn it so that you can fit that way. So I'm going to put this up here and use my pencil to make a mark, and I am going to cut it. Again, if you are using the border punch, you will place your piece down like this, and you can pull it down a little so you can see what you're doing. And pull it down quite a bit, because you'll want to bring it on over here and then mark it with a pencil, and then you're going to cut it this way. Once you have your piece cut, we're just going to apply some glue and mount that. I think that this gold looks so nice with this paper collection. Okay, the only places that we're going to apply glue is up here and here, the top and the bottom, because what we're going to be doing is making this so you can still slide a picture map back behind and use that as like a pocket. So let's add our glue. And I'm going to have to wipe off any excess here. And we're going to center and mount that. Any excess glue you can just get up. Now we do have some decorations, embellishments for out here. So prepare a flower. This is a 3-layer and I got prills in there. I used the elderberry stamp and I've got elderberry around the edges, and then the rest is the sweet plum. And don't forget to use your blender pen because it really does change the coloring and it's so pretty. And Weka Stella and glossy accents were applied to this. You'll want a leaf. And this is one of the larger side view butterflies, and you will snip that out of your foiled fancy butterflies and you will bend it slightly right here. This is going to place right down here. And I'm going to work on the inside before I place this, but then you put a leaf and then you've got a flower. And that is really pretty. So we'll wait for that, but I did want to give you a heads up. Let's flip this on over and work on the inside. In your paper pack, pull out this sheet. We need a fresh sheet. It's the one with the butterflies. Measure over 5 1/8 of an inch and cut. The larger piece goes in reserves. Now let's measure over 6 5/8 of an inch and cut. Your piece should fit in here, allowing a black border around the top, the sides, and enough on the side well before you get to the inner score line here. In your reserves, you should have a nice size cutting that was off from our other page. Measure over 4 1/8 of an inch and cut. Okay, put the other side in our reserves. Now what I want you to do is mount this to a piece of black cardstock, and all you're going to do is cut the cardstock to fit on this. Grab a piece from your reserves if you have it, and I'll tell you the easiest way on this is to put it up in the corner, allowing you to have a black border around it, not too thick, but trying to keep the border up, down, and to the sides the same. And as for me, I'm a little wider on this side, so I'm just going to trim about a 1/16 of an inch off this. And this is what you should have. You're going to glue this directly down to your page. And the black cardstock is about a 1/2 inch down from the top. And you will center it from side to side. I'd say about there. You can just eyeball this. It's not going to really matter. And now we're just going to get a small pocket going across. In your reserves, you should have a piece like this, and I believe it's 3 1/2 inches wide, and it's longer this way. We're going to measure over 2 1/2 inches and cut this down. Now I'm only going to need a little bit of washi tape, not the full length. So I'm just going to place this down here, centered, so that it tells me how far across. across I need to go. I'm just going to place my washi tape. And I think I'll do one more. Trying to keep it, whoops. Okay, and I think I'm going to start right here in the middle. And then I'm going to punch the rest of the way on each side. Let's mount our pocket. And then you can tack the flaps around the back. We can go ahead and glue this on down to the inside of our page and watch to make sure. I know I keep saying it, but it's a good reminder because I've done it before. Glue this on down and then we'll get our piece that fits here. In your reserves, you should find a long piece like this on the back. It looks like this. I'm just going to set mine right on up here underneath that trim, and I'm going to make a mark because I want to make it to where I have at least a little bit of black showing. And then I'm going to make a mark on this side. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this up. Let's go ahead and glue this piece down. Now also in your reserves, you will find, whoops, I'm a little off there. There we go. In your reserves, you will also find a very slim trimming. This is the same print as the mauve up here. On the back, it's yellow. And I am going to just place this, giving myself some room over here, and I will bring this up. And you know, actually I'm going to give you the cut, so it might be hard to see. So go over 4 5/8 and cut that. Now just lay it down and center it. Actually, I'm going to use my toffee crunch, and I'm going to ink around the edges on this one so it's more prominent. If somebody wants to write right on this, use it as like a little thing. It will stick out better. You can see it better. And we're just going to add some glue. Okay, let's attach this. So grab your sheet and we're going to center it in between, so you'll see a little of your paper top to bottom. Hold it, pinch it, keep a hold of it, and then you can run some glue, whether it be your white glue or whatever. I like the hot glue because it's quick at tacking it down, especially on those. So easy for it to slide around. Okay, the butterfly. And before we can mount this, we have to allow this time to dry. The butterfly is going to go right here at the corner. Let's grab our leaf, put some glue on that. And, you know, I think which way did I want to go? I think I want to go with something like this. And now for the flower. Move it up a little. Now for the flower. That looks good. And then we're going to allow that to dry, and that will also allow you to slide a photo back in behind there as well. No, this isn't the right size or anything, but so that you can see, you can get something in behind. Just an idea. Okay, as soon as it's dry, let's put our score tape to the back. And let's see, is there anything else I want to do in here? Yes, I do, actually. You should find some small itty-bitty ones off the foiled fancies. Let's go ahead and just put one right there, right up here. I think that's what I want to do. If you don't want to, you don't have to. I'm going to put that right up here. And it should not interfere with the size picture mats that we can get in the pocket. You don't have to push up the wings if you don't want to. There, done deal. Let's put that in our book. Oh, we're going to have to hold this for a bit too. And I think by using a clip, because we want that to do, we can just kind of clip that until it's dry. Page 6. Okay, we are on page 6. Grab a piece of cardstock, measure over 6¼ inches, and cut. I'm going to use this washi tape, and I'm going to place a couple strips, whatever I need here. And I'm using the Regal Borders die plate, the same one we used before. And once I get my washi tape down, I'm going to run this through the die cutter. I next ran a piece of solid colored washi tape for a trim. And now we're going to mount our pocket. And we're going to go ahead and tack our flaps around to the back. In your reserves, you will find a long sheet, and it's approximately 4¾ inch that way. And I need to trim this up, so I'm just going to put that right there, and I'm going to mark where I need to be. And now I'm just going to trim. And then once I have that trimmed off, I can measure over 7¼ inches and cut that to fit. Okay, we're going to apply glue to the back of this, and we're going to place that. Look in your reserves before you cut a fresh sheet. We want a piece that is 4¾ inch by 7 inch. I'm going to use the Ornate Borders and Pockets die, and I'm going to use this one in the middle. If you are not die cutting, you'll probably want to use your deep edge punch. I'm going to place washi tape across this side, and then I'm going to place my die down, making sure that it is centered, and I am going to run this through the die cutter. One more thing, you will want to do both sides of this with the washi tape. You'll cut in to release this top. Let's go ahead and put this on our scoreboard. Score at 1/2 inch. And then you're going to want to score at 3/4 inch should be fine. And we'll fold. Okay, flap is off to the right. Go ahead and tuck them all back behind. In your reserves, you should have this sheet. It's the blue with white polka dots. On the back, it's this. And we are going to measure to fit. Now, first thing is this, we're going to have to trim up this way a little. So to start, I'm just going to move mine down. And when I place my cut here, I'm going to leave about 1/16 inch of black so it can show. Now I'm just going to move that over, And do the same thing down here so I have a little black showing. So my first cut is going to be here, and then I'm going to trim that. Before you add glue, make sure that you are going to fit, and I am. So I'm going to apply glue, and I'm going to mount this. And let's fold this out. Flaps are off to the left now. And we're going to do the same thing we did before. And I'm just going to bring that right on up here, giving me room. Make a mark here, and I'm going to make a mark right here. My first cut is going to be here, and then I'm going to cut here. And this is in your reserves. Check to make sure your cuts were accurate. And now let's apply glue and glue this down. Got something on there. Okay, I'm going to pinch it where those scores are, and I'm just going to bring this all the way down to the bottom. I'm going to pinch it, flip it over, and tack this down. Perfect. Let's open that up. Now, if you have this piece in your reserves, we are going to mount this to black cardstock, and we are going to place this down like this. And I'm going to show you, we're not going to add glue all over the back. We're going to make it so this is also a pocket. Here is the black cardstock that I cut, and I cut it so it would still leave me a black border all the way around. I'm going to apply my glue. Okay, if you cannot find this piece, you will wait till the end of the tutorial to grab a piece that you would like, and it's going to be placed here. Now I'm only going to have glue underneath, a thin line of glue underneath the top and the bottom. And that will allow for us to slide picture mats in there and utilize that as a pocket as well. And let's see, this one may be too wide to get in there. Let's just make sure. Yep. Okay, let's flip that on over. Let's grab one of those corner pieces that we cut on, and let's grab our large Martha Stewart Monarch Butterfly Punch. I'm going to flip mine over so I can see what I'm doing better. And we're going to punch out one of those. Now I am going to add sugar or sweet plum. I don't know why I always do that. I call it sugar plum. It's called sweet plum. And I'm just going to lightly get some of the edges here, breaking it up a little. In your Foiled Fancies butterflies, snip off one that looks like this. And if you were to place it right over, it's a beautiful fit. And I'm going to glue that down. Let's grab a leaf. And we're going to glue that down just like that. And let's glue this butterfly down. Oops, I need to allow it to dry. There we go. Prepare a small flower. This was inked around the edges with elderberry. There is some angel pink in there and some sweet plum. And all we're going to do is glue that flower right in the middle there. My pearls are still wet. And then I'm going to allow that to dry, and then we are going to flip this over, apply our score tape, and mount this in our book. Page 6 is completed. Page 7. In your paper pack, you will find this sheet. Now grab both of them. We're going to cut our base page for page 7 and 8. So doubling them up, let's measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. And on the back side, it is white. These go into our reserves. Now measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. Okay, the smaller pieces go in our reserve. Set one off to the side, which will be page 8. We're going to work with this. Grab a piece of cardstock, and we're going to measure over 5 1/2 inches, which is exactly half of this, and cut. Put one piece with page 8. For this one, I'm going to use the Regal Borders die plate. It's the same plate that we used before. It's my favorite. However, the top piece, I'm using this one with all the little holes in it that fits with it, and it's going to place right up here. I'm going to use a bright gold color for my washi tape, and I'm going to start right here and go across as evenly as possible. So let's lay our washi tape for what we need for this, so we don't have to go all the way across up here unless you would like to. So let's get that ready to go. Once you've got your washi tape down, let's go ahead and run that on through the die cutter, making sure we're even. You'll want to cut in from the sides to make it even as possible. Let's mount our pocket. And we'll go ahead and tack down our flaps to the back. I think this is really pretty. Kind of depends on how the light gets it. In your paper pack, you will find this sheet. It's very pretty. On the back, it is white. So the first thing that we're going to do is measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. This piece goes in our reserves. So we're only going to cut for this front piece, just in case our die plate or what you're doing is a little off from the last time. So I'm going to measure what I need and just use my pencil right down here. And now let's trim. Apply glue to the back, and let's mount that. Cut a piece of lace to fit across, and let's glue that down. Cut a piece of bling to fit across and glue that down. This is where we're at. Now grab your small Martha Stewart punch. And if you have any leftover off your cuttings from the washi tape, punch out 2 small butterflies. And then what you're going to do on white cardstock is stamp 2 butterfly images. And what I did was I stamped one with elderberry, and then I lightly covered it in with the sweet plum. And then the other one I stamped with sweet plum and used a little angel peak and sweet plum in there. I did apply the Wink of Stella and the glossy accents. With the cutouts from the washi tape on the cardstock, I'm going to bend this a little bit, and I'm going to apply glue to the back. And I'm going to glue it right on there so the wings are up. And I'm going to let that dry. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Once this is completely dry, then what you can do is add some glue. and place this. It's kind of harder when you have everything's still wet, so it's probably a good idea to wait until it is. However, I am not going to. And over here I'm going to add one. This page is complete. We're going to flip it over, add score tape to the back, and mount this in our book. Page 8. Page 8, here's our base sheet that we set aside, and you set aside a piece of cardstock. We're going to do the same thing we did on page 7, putting our washi tape down, and we're going to die cut this. Grab your score tape, and we're going to mount this pocket. And let's tack those flaps around the back. In your reserves, you will have a piece that we've already cut that will fit across. So we're just going to measure to fit with our pencil, making a mark and cutting that. Cut a piece of lace and glue that down. And we're going to do the same thing we did on page 7, cutting a piece of bling and gluing that down. So let's do that. Set this off to the side. Let's grab a piece of cardstock. Measure over 7 1/4 inches and cut. Let's grab our scoreboard, and we are 11 inches across. We're going to score at 1/2 inch and at 3/4 of an inch. Let's flip this over. At 6 1/2 inches, we are going to score. And at 6 5/8, we're going to score. And I'm going to move mine over a bit here so I can do that. Let's go ahead and fold on our score lines. Let's start. Perfect. Our flaps are off to the right on this one. Let's go ahead and fold them completely back behind. And let's start right on in here. In your reserves, you will find this sheet, and you can fill the glitter on it. On the back, it is blank. Measure over 7 1/8 of an inch and cut. The small piece goes in our reserves. Measure over 5 5/8 of an inch and cut. Let's check. Make sure we fit before we do anything. Lay this down, and you should be able to have a black border if you were to move it over on the side here and on the side, on the inside of that score line. If you are right on the score line, trim off another 1/16 of an inch so that when we do lay this, it's going to fit. And mine fits, so I am going to go ahead and apply glue and mount this on there. So let's do that. In your reserves, you should have this print. It's the yellow with the roses there. On the back, it looks like this. Measure over 7 1/8 of an inch and cut. Just put this piece off to the side, the smaller one. We'll be using that. Measure over 4 1/8 of an inch and cut. Check to make sure this is going to fit, and if you are fine, just put this off to the side. In your reserves, you should find a piece like this. And this is 8.5 inches wide, and it's 3.5 inches this way. We don't need the width of it, we do need this. So we're just going to trim this down to measure over 6.5 inches and cut. Let's grab our 1/2 inch Martha Stewart punch, and I'm using crochet loop, and we're just going to punch along this. Grab your score tape, and we're going to put it across the bottom of our panel here. There we go. And we're just going to wrap our flaps and tack that down. Take this piece and we're just going to measure to fit, and I'm going to leave a little gold showing there. My pencil. And I'm going to cut first this way, and then I'll cut down that way. So let's do that. Let's apply glue and mount this panel piece. Cut a piece of 1/2 inch lace and glue that down. Now we can apply glue to the back of this and mount that. So let's do that. Okay, let's go ahead. Flaps are off to the right. Let's flip this over. In your reserves, grab this sheet, measure over 7 1/8 and cut. We are going to be short on one side, so we are going to build on. So flip this on over. Put your score tape down. Grab a piece of cardstock from your reserves. Now let's go ahead and trim this so that it's even with this. Now let's measure over 5 9/16 of an inch and cut. Make sure your panel will fit, allowing you room, and mine does. Let's get our pocket ready. Check your reserves for a piece of cardstock that is 3 inches wide and 8.5 inches long. That will give us room for our flaps. And we are going to use the same die plate as we used here. So let's lay our washi tape down, place our brackets, and die cut. Mine was across the room. I gotta clean mine out. So this is what we're up to. Let's do that. So this is where we're at. Let's run a piece of score tape down the side. We're going to mount this little side pocket. I'm going to turn mine, it's easier for me. And wrap our flaps around the back and tack it down. When we were cutting for this, you would have had a long strip that was left over. So let's grab that. And then when we were cutting on this, you would have had a long scrap. Where are we here? We're right there. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is glue this piece right down here. And then this piece right here glues right there. So let's glue that on down. Let's flip this over, add our glue, and mount that. Remember, your flaps, the way this should look is if you're looking at your page like this, your flaps should have been off to the right, flip it over. Now your flaps are to the left, and this is how this places. Okay, flip this back on over, tuck your flaps off underneath to get them out of the way. We're now working on this. In your reserves, you will find this piece on the back. It is white. We're going to, this should be just about a good fit, but we do need to trim it down. So just measure over 7 1/8 and trim. Check to make sure that if you were to lay this down, it would give you a black border top to bottom there. Now let's measure over 4 1/8 of an inch and cut. This is what you should have. We're not attaching yet. And if you were to place this, it would be a fit like this. And it is. We're not going to glue that down yet. We have another pocket to make. Check your reserves to see if you can use any cardstock. We want a 6 1/2 inch by 4 inch piece of black cardstock. If you cannot find one, cut one. We're going to need our washi tape. Okay, I'm ready to go here. Let's go ahead and center this and run it through our die cutter. We are going to mount this pocket and wrap our flaps around the back. In your reserves, you'll find this piece. It's blank on the back. I'm just going to move this right on up there, as far as I'd like to come up. I'm going to make a mark with my pencil, and I'll trim off this way first, and then what I'll do is I will trim this down this way. So let's get that piece ready. Apply glue to the back and mount that. Cut a piece of lace, and I'm using the 1 3/4, and we're going to glue that down. And then of course we're going to cut a piece of bling to fit across, and we'll glue that down. Apply glue to the back of this, and let's mount that. Let's go ahead and attach our page. I'll just slide that right on in there. Make sure it's straight. Pinch it and tack it. Prepare a couple leaves, and I'm going to use hot glue for this. Stick them down. Prepare a flower. Now with this one, I actually had messed up. So what I had done was just blotting some different darker colors, and I actually ended up liking it. So I'm using it. And I'm just going to place that right on down. Okay, this page is complete, I'd say. If you would like, you can add some accents to it. I'm going to leave mine as it is. Flip it on over, score tape around the back, one down the middle, 2 short ones, and let's mount that in our book.